So moving on to our next session by my very good friend from Ethiopia, right? I would love to go to Ethiopia one day. Daniel, he'll be sharing his thoughts and insights on reviving cultural heritage with XR technology, a pathway to sustainable development. And I'll be adding Daniel to the stream. So hi, Daniel.
Hi, Rumi. Hi, Jennifer.
How are you?
Hi, Daniel.
I'm fine.
Good. Are you good. A bit short of time, but are you ready to share?
Yeah, I think it's already shared.
Yeah.
We're really excited to have you share today, Daniel. We won't say too much. We'll just let you get into it. I know what you have to show will speak for itself. I'm thrilled about this session. Please go ahead.
Have fun.
Thank you, Rumi, Jennifer. So my name is Daniel Getachew, for those of you who didn't know me, and I'm the founder and CEO of Guzo Technologies. So for today, this is my topic. It's about cultural heritage and how it's important to preserve, and also how we use the power of XR technology, especially to preserve and promote the cultural heritage of Africa. So who are we as a company based in Ethiopia? We specialized in building immersive experiences for historical heritage sites and artifacts, and digitizing all of especially the tourism sites. So we create memorable digital experiences, and the impact of applying this XR, especially when you see in the Ethiopian context, we use it to preserve our historical heritage sites and also artifacts. That's like the main thing we are doing for the past 4 years. So it's not only limited to like creating content, but we test and prototype few XR related hardwares. So we are also into like building some gadgets for VR technology. So you can check out more of our works on YouTube. So you will find amazing projects. So today's topic is more onto like what is like cultural heritage itself. So according to UNESCO, it's they defined it as it's a legacy of physical artifacts and intangible attributes of a group or a society that are inherited from the past generations, maintained and presented for the benefit of future generations. So this is like something we have to keep in mind. But I hope most of you remember this day. It was February 2015, and we all saw this shocking news on the medias, on the mass medias, or especially the ISIS terrorists wiping 2,000 years of artifacts, heritage around Syria. And this was really heart-touching moment, especially for me personally. So that was even the reason why we are getting to the XR industry, especially from the VR side. But there were like other factors. We call them like disasters happened in the past few years. It includes COVID-19, some political and climate change. And we have also to highlight how the impact of smartphones over the previous way, or the traditional way of learning or acquiring new knowledge, especially from books, is currently gone. So as you can see, those things are also one of the factors especially affecting the future of tourism. So there has to be something to preserve all heritage. It's not limited to like Africa or Ethiopia or Nigeria. This is like an issue of each and every country around the world. So especially developed once the developed countries, they are trying to utilize the XR industry, the XR technology, to protect their heritage. But what makes XR unique, especially in the areas of protecting cultural heritage, I just identified those 5 points. The first one is the preservation and restoration. So this technology itself, it allows us to digitally preserve and restore the cultural artifacts, sites, monuments, and etc. So those are like one of the use cases. So just basically we create the virtual replicas, and that way we can safeguard the heritage. So if we want them, like if we want to rebuild the same artifact or sites, we have the data. So it's not only taken by a video or a picture. So there is the actual measurements, the texture, tone, and everything we get through this technology. The second one is the accessibility and the engagement. So through adopting this technology, people will have different ways to experience this heritage sites, even if they are away from the actual location. So those use cases, especially being able to attend or visit virtually or remotely from different locations, will even give us more ability to understand about the stories and the heritage sites. So that's like how it's connected with this technology. The third one is the education and the learning section. I think the first presenter explained in detail about the whole aspect of education, but I'm trying to highlight how we can also teach our future kids, future generations about our historical stories, which is like our especially the active to have an active participations along with history related and culture related things. This is like one of the advantage why we apply extended reality in short. The fourth one is the cultural exchange, which is it allows us like to share our culture with the other part of the world, and we can also collaboratively conduct research and share knowledge, stories, which will make us. We can learn from one another, and that's like one of the benefits. The final one is the economic benefits, because currently the XR industry is mainly known in the entertainment and gaming sector, but especially for Africa, it has a big economic benefits, which we also focus on putting this kind of experiences in airports, for example. So there are a lot of transits who will arrive in different airports across Africa. So imagine if we target that and get a way to promote the culture, the historical heritage sites. Plus, we have another means of income to generate out of this new market. So those are like the economic benefits of this XR around cultural heritage. So I want to highlight on the first one, which is the preservation and restoration, because that's like the most important thing. If we don't preserve, I don't think we can able to jump to the other importance of XR, especially within the cultural heritage and tourism in general. So this is like basically a method being used for a while, and you can get from this research paper. I put it at the source under the image. I think it says the extended reality and informative models for the architectural heritage. So it involves different technologies, but I'm trying to highlight a few of the things you see on the screen, starting from the documentation, how we retrieve an actual data over historically recorded archives, and then how we apply different satellite imagery, laser scans, photogrammetry. So there are different techniques we apply to gate information as much as like we can out of different resources. Then literally we collect all digital plus written data. After we conducted that, we will be able to reconstruct in a gaming engine. These days, I think it's common to build virtual experiences in a gaming engine. And my friend, he also have a good experience in creating web-based virtual experiences, augmented reality experiences. So we can use any of the technologies, but it's common to use a gaming engine these days. And finally, we put it on immersive technologies like VR, AR, or any other gadgets as we want. This is like the first step to do. The first one is to take the actual data that we can collect through, it could be an optical camera or a laser sensors or a LiDAR technology these days. I think LiDAR is also one of the based tools we can get, especially on iPhone, it's common. And on the right side, you see the historical record in archives. This is important because mostly when you try to get relevant information on an actual historical heritage sites, some of its parts might be damaged. So it's good always to refer back from archives or any evidence or any community members that we can interview so that we get relevant information about that specific site as much as possible. So this is like the first step we do. The second part of conducting or taking the information about the site will be mostly there is laser scanning for accurately taking the walls, the building, the actual scene itself. So it could be a cave, it could be a really dark space. So it might be hard for us to take a photogrammetry because of the lighting issues. So laser scanning is the best and one of the highly used technique to take all these heritage sites. On the bottom, you see the photogrammetry version, which means through laser technology, we only get the depths and the structure of the heritage site, but it might be hard for us to recreate the colors and the textures. So we have to have the photogrammetry, especially we apply that on the outdoor scene. So that's like what we do to get both the mesh, which is the structure part of the heritage site, and the reflection, the texturing, and all of the details from that site. So if we have it on the actual heritage site, it's good. If we don't, we will recreate or construct it on a modeling software. So based on the archives we get, we will be applying those information in a 3D. Then we will have the complete version of the building. And finally, I think I mentioned it earlier, it's how we develop the VR experience. We mostly use a gaming engine, and in our company, we prefer Unreal Engine because of its performance, its quality. So the CAD files, the laser data, the textures, everything will be combined in a real-time game engine. And then this is where we build the actual experience, which is a virtual reality experience, or it could be an augmented reality experience. So what makes it XR? Probably there might be some need to design a new type of hardware, a new type of engaging tool on top of the gaming engine. So this allows us like to reprogram, design, prototype our own technologies integrated to this experience. So that's how we get and later on create an immersive and interactive experience, a virtual reality experience. So I mentioned a few things about photogrammetry. So we heard about AI. I think it's also asked by a lot of participants since yesterday, and it's a bit hard to do photogrammetry up to this point. It's a technique of arranging or taking multiple overlapping photographs of certain objects, or it could be an environment, and then those images are processed with a special software. Mostly we use reality capture, and then we will get the cloud meshes. Those cloud meshes or cloud points will create a 3D polygons. Then we get the 3D file with the texture. It takes a bit of high processing power, and also it's a bit expensive that the currently available technologies. I think I should rename the second one. It's NERF. NERF is like a neural radiance field. It's powered by AI. We can use same technique like photogrammetry, but what makes it powerful is it renders realistic 3D scenes with minimal processing, and also we can use a cloud technology to do such type of processing. And one of the biggest advantage of using NERF is it could also capture the lighting. So when I see this is like it has like red color or yellow color, or we see some texture of that heritage or an artifact, because there are some lights bouncing off from that specific object at specific angle. But if we move around, that lighting will change, especially on metallic surfaces. And in photogrammetry, there was like a big issues when we take, especially heritage sites, because of the limitations of photogrammetry. It's a bit hard to capture translucent objects, metallic objects. So there are a bit of challenge, but using NERF, that's eliminated. So you could also see how powerful AI is now becoming and how it's impacting or powering this process with an efficient ways and also advanced features. Since I don't have time, I will jump to the second thing. This is like the traditional capturing, the motion capturing technology versus AI-enabled motion capturing technology. I want to highlight this part because when we say history, culture, heritage, it's not only a building, it's not only some kind of artifact, but it could also be communities, how they celebrate, how they have any sort of engagement. Let's say there was a king and a queen, and the way they organize some kind of events could also be taken as a heritage, or we want to experience that moment in time. There are battle stories like Adwa, so we want to have a feeling, and we will be interested like how it looks if we were part of that incident or that event. So there are like some characters, like human beings will be involved in XR. We call them avatars, we call them NPCs or non-playable characters, and even our existence in the virtual space should be translated from the actual human being body into a virtual avatar. So we have to have a clone in the XR. So there is basically human beings. So the traditional way of capturing motion is a bit expensive because it requires really complex hardwares and also facial capturing techniques. It's resource intensive, but nowadays there is a platform called Move AI. You just need a couple of iPhone devices around you, and you can capture anything, literally anything. And the power of Move AI is you don't need extra hardware to capture multiple subjects, which means if there are like 2-3 actors, still this technology will allow you to capture multiple actors. But in the traditional mocap technology, it's a bit literally it's expensive to do it because you need additional hardwares depending on the number of actors involved in your scene. So that was the advantage over like what was before. So coming to the avatars, like I discussed, we tried a few things. Let me just play this one. So it's really powerful to have such type of real-time experiences, and we use our avatars. Actually, this is like a virtual reality experience. Anyone with VR headset could remotely join and see the live facial movements. We can send the audio through like VoIP technology, so literally we can be teleported in a digital life. So we were experimenting with a lot of projects, and this is like one of the use cases of NPCs. And nowadays, the most interesting thing I heard after ChatGPT is you can connect the power of ChatGPT with this non-playable characters. Then you can easily create a virtual tour guides that tells you about the story, the cultural heritage. You can ask, you could have conversational discussions with the NPCs. So that's like the power. And there are African talents who also conducted working prototype over ChatGPT. And this is our character, Lucy. We are also working on similar projects here. So that's like the power and how it looks. I have 2 demos that are related to historical heritage and this virtual museums concept. This is the first one, and there are different artifacts, and most of the artifacts were archived, so no one have access to like this artifact. So we got the opportunity to take part in this project. So we took nearly 100 of the statues and artifacts, small artifacts, with the photogrammetry technology. We use Unreal Engine to recreate the whole virtual museum. It's our first multiplayer experience, so multiple participants could join this one, and they can communicate. A virtual tour guide will tell them about each and every artifact. That's how it works. And I think few of the artifacts are also published on Google Arts and Culture. So we already started putting our image and also our stories to the world, at least with what we can get around us and with some of the local partners we get. And the second one is, it's also a virtual museum, but it's made for British Council. So this one is also a virtual museum, but it's like an arts gallery. So we turned the actual physical building to an arts gallery. So they are the same, but you can see like the quality and all of the features it has. So it's I think it's a really small video. So let's have a look.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah, so those are our trailers. You could check more of our projects online. And we always say a nation that forgets its past has no future. So I think for Africans, using the latest emerging technologies, especially XR, is one of the biggest advantage we have, especially to acquire and also implement it on a wide range of sectors. But the tourism one is, I think, we see it as one of the powerful one, and let's build our future together. And that's about all about my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. That was really great. I was just smiling all through. You did a very, very good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm always amazed, Daniel, every time I see the work that, that your team does. It's incredible. And for any of our audience that hasn't seen it before, I'm sure they're shaking their head saying, how did you even do that? It's such important work, and so incredibly relevant in the world that we find ourselves in today. And I think you kind of started out the presentation talking a little bit about that. Absolutely incredible. We've got a question on the screen about how you do what you do, so you can see it here. Asking specifically about the technology, so NERF and some of the I can't even say that word. I can't say it. The photogrammetry, I don't know. That's utilized to create the actual experiences. How accessible is it? Can our audience access it? What does that look like for them?
Yeah, it's possible. For the photogrammetry, I think reality capture is one of the best tools, but NERF is different. So if they want to access and play around with NERF, I think they could start with Luma AI. So it's available on I think on App Store, so they can download and use it for free. And there is also one photogrammetry tool if you use your iPhone. I think it's Polycam. Yeah, that's the app. But NERF is like it's advantageous over a lot of things. So I will recommend, especially newbies, to enter into the NERF technologies. There was like difficulties over creating 3D out of NERF, especially within game engines. But recently, Unreal Engine also announced they now integrated NERF feature, so we could use it in VR as well. So that's one of the advantage we get.
So great. We have another question from Abdul Walib, if I'm correct. He said, hello, Daniel. Greetings from Lamu, Kenya. My concerns is in reviving cultural heritage for structures and artifacts that has been demolished or lost some of its features. How do we revive them?
That's a really good question, because the whole point of seeing the technologies, how we can retrieve back and reconstruct those heritages from written books, or it could be really old pictures. This technology allows us to redesign and reconstruct what we aspire and what we heard. So that's like the means, the only means we have as of now. So especially using the power of game engines, we've been like playing around with game engines for a while, but nowadays no one imagined game engines will be used in a lot of industries, especially in recreating historical heritage sites and creating engaging experiences. Because the first thing that comes to our mind when we say game itself is about entertainment, or it could be something else, or it's just fun, not we don't see it as a powerful tool to retrieve our historics back from ages. So I think it's we have architects, we have graphics designers, we have modeling and animation experts. So collectively, we can recreate anything we want these days. And recently, there is AI around us. I think that's like the hype of AI. So with AI, we can ask anything, and the AI will do it by its own. These days, you can easily type a single prompt, and you can get a working VR experience. So it's a pretty much scary, but combining the power of AI over this gaming tools will give us really powerful outcomes, especially in recreating historical heritage sites. So Africa is rich with that. So let's focus on like creating more of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been talking over the past couple of days about, new jobs that are created as part of the technology. And we've talked about prompt engineers and things like that. It's interesting because you're almost talking about an immersive anthropologist of some sort, which I think is fascinating in terms of, different types of jobs that might exist in the future that are empowered by this technology.
True. No one expected about Nerf after photogrammetry. So there are still upcoming technologies. We have to follow up that. I think we Africans are lucky to properly adopt all of those new things. Early comers are always we have the advantage by being an early adopter of these technologies.
Great. I have a question though, right? The technology is indeed amazing, but how can we have governments and institutions in Africa buy into it, right? They can be a bit slow to adopting technology, but we see the future and we know where we can fuse this tech in, right? What are some of the strategies we can get government and cultural institutions on the continent to buy into XR for culture and heritage?
That's a powerful question, Arome, because we always ask that question whenever we have this kind of discussions. The first one is like to create awareness, especially to the governments, to the policymakers. I don't think most of them have the idea of how it's powerful, how this technology is powerful, especially within the tourism sector. We have seen COVID is one best example, and I heard the report during the COVID time. They say literally our income from the tourism sector is zero. That's what they said officially. So imagine there are talents, there is the possibility of applying the technology and remotely selling your cultural heritage stories, but I think it's a bit hard to give them a good understanding of this technology. And that's what we were trying to achieve in the past 4 years. And we are still doing that. We are giving awareness. The reason why we are also collaborating on this type of events is to give and to show them what's possible. We are not showcasing something from abroad. This is an African authentic content. And we are trying to give them, with this technology, with the resources we have, this is what we can achieve. So if you help us out, there are plenty of things to do, and there are a lot of stories that deserves to be preserved in the digital space, especially XR. So the first one is awareness, and the second one is to stay committed, to stay connected and collaborate with other African companies, talents, because we can't do it alone. That's like the truth. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you so much. Like Dr. Morris said, we just need to keep at it, keep building, keep showcasing it. And I think one of the things that has been going on for startups building with XR on the continent is the ability to build a demo and show it, right? When they see it, they can understand it and they can now invest in it. So I want to say well done and an amazing job you're doing, right? I see updates on LinkedIn and I always have smiles on my face with the amazing work you're doing. So keep it up, man.
Thanks, Arome.
We've got like feedbacks from the comment. People who are really saying quite impressive. Well done. Very interesting. amazing work, right? So everybody is really, really amazed and inspired by your work.
Thanks, everyone.
Great.